Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Professor Diaz, and today I wanted to talk about the Octagon Challenge, which is the Lab 2 of Week 3. It says that you create a program that displays an octagon based on the user entry. So what if the user puts in a 5, their octagon has a length of 5 stars for each side. You also need to create code that doesn't enter in values that are invalid. So you need to make the user put the value between 3 and 8. Finally, you have to use these member variables. So you have to use classes, so you can practice classes, and that's it. So believe it or not, this took me longer than I thought it would, but I can show you the reasoning that helped me out. So let me go ahead and open up a virtual sketchpad. All right, so here we have an octagon, and I was having trouble determining how to do this because there's so many ways to do it, right? I mean, you're gonna have your way, I have my way, somebody else has their way, Professor Solis has his way. And so there's a lot of ways that we can solve this, and sometimes we get lost in those possibilities. But one thing that really helps me out is to first solve the problem by hand, and that is to break up the problem into very tiny chunks and solve those. So I was having difficulty, and then I need to change this color. Let's use blue. Okay. And then here's what I did. So oh, we're still online. Whoops. Let me go to freehand. So that's a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you probably did this yourself. This is actually really helpful in constructing the octagon. And I'm just going to number it. I'll number here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. That's all I need to go. This is kind of what it looks like on the bottom as well. So I break this up into tiny chunks. So first things first, I have a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, and these are my indices, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's perfect. So I have to think about how I would solve this problem on paper. I decided to solve it row by row and have it solve outward, and I'll explain what that means. I looked at this in terms of, all right, there's a set of spaces before you get to a star, and this line represents the star. And then there's a star, and then there's a number of spaces after that star, and then a new star is punctuated at the end. And then you go to the next row, and then the next row, and the next row. So we have to look for patterns. So we have the 1 to 3 portion, and that itself is a pattern. It's a very easy one. So this one is just your size. So you just loop through the size variable. Then it starts getting a little persnickety, where it goes from 5 to 7 to 9, but that's an increase of 2, and you know that, and you're able to create a loop that illustrates that you're going to increase by 2 each time, and you have to solve one arm and then the other arm. And I want to show you what my code looked like. Let me go ahead and get that for you. So I'm going to minimize that. I thought that I had Visual Studio open, but I don't think I did. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me. Right, so I have the basic code that Professor Solis has with the classes and the member variables and the check to see if we're between 3 and 8. The difference in our methods is in our implementation of the display method. And just like I was telling you before, I had to look at this in terms of there's spaces before a star, then there's a star, then there's spaces after, and then it's punctuated by a star at the very end. So I created a spaces maker. It's a function that creates, we'll just create spaces. And then I also broke my problem up into those patterns I was talking about. So the top part has its own pattern, the slanting out has its own pattern, the middle, etc., etc. And so I solved it in terms of those parts. Okay. And you'll see that I have the logic there. So I create a string that stores the number of spaces before the star, and a string that stores the number of spaces after. But in this case, because it's that first row, so all of them are filled, all of the rows are, the units are filled in with stars, I don't do that part. I just put stars. And then I don't need to care about what happens after that. And that will display the top. To create the slanting on the outside, again, we look for patterns. We notice it's increasing by 2. We know that one side is moving to the right and the other side is moving to the right in a different way. It's so going descending and ascending. So I found the formula for that slant, for that increase of 2 each time. And you can do this by playing around with your notes and just, trying to figure out what the pattern is. That's pretty fun. If you get stuck on stuff like that, come to me and I will help you out with that part. Okay. And so when we get to the next one, we see more of the idea. Spaces to the left, create spaces to the right, and then put the left spaces concatenated with the star next to the right spaces concatenated with a star. And that's pretty much how I did the whole thing, just in terms of patterns and the separation like this. So that's all I did. Yeah. So there are other ways to do this. I have another way. Let me see if I can get it for you. I'll press pause for now until I find it. Okay, I found it. So one of my friends saw what I was doing and also wanted to do the Octagon challenge, and his looks a lot better than mine, but that's okay. What I made, I understand, and what he made, he understands. And you don't need to worry about, oh, this person did it this way, or like, don't worry about that. You used your own logic to get to the solution. That's what's important, that you understand what you did. Anyway, so his idea was to create a line drawer class, and the idea is that the octagon is constructed out of lines. So let me see if I can get this back up. So he knows how to draw a line, right? Create a line drawer that knows how to draw a line. And then you give it positional arguments. You give it positional arguments to move about the space. So you can check this one out I'm gonna go ahead and post this one up too. If you have any questions with any of the codes that we've posted so far, just let me know and I would be happy to help you. So thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day.